This is Newsroom. Hello and welcome from Johannesburg in South Africa. I'm Kathryn Milan, standing in for Eben Janssen today. The show is live and broadcast from our studios in Auckland Park. We are also streaming live on YouTube with the entire show available all day long on our YouTube channel. Today, we speak to the Hibiscus Coast Municipality after the historic announcement this week that the Kwazulu-Natal South Coast will have an official nudist beach before the December holidays. We take a look at the second annual Cape Town Residential Survey. Also, bullying in the workplace may be more common than you think. Then later in the show, we are joined by rapper Mpho Quick Billion Bapela. But first, here's the day's news with Untitled Chapter.
Good morning, I'm Anindo Mal. Let's have a look at the stories making headlines today. A major decrease in the fuel price could be announced today. Economists say the price of petrol is set to fall by almost 50 cents a litre, while the drop in the diesel price could be even more. The decreases are as a result of the stronger rand and lower international oil prices. A police task team investigating Senzo Mohiwa's killing is believed to be following strong leads ahead of his burial tomorrow. The Bafana and Orlando Pirates captain will be laid to rest at the Heroes Acre in Chesterville outside of Durban.
Having been working with the police, firstly we are confident that the police will make an arrest because they are following and on every information and every lead that is coming their way. There's lots of cooperation, there's lots of people who are phoning the police.
Parliament's ad hoc committee's draft reports on Nkandla upgrades has absolved President Jacob Zuma of any wrongdoing. The committee, which only constitutes of ANC members after opposition parties withdrew, met again last night to discuss its draft report. ANC member of the committee, Mamaloko Kubayi, has cleared the president of wrongdoing but pointed fingers at the appointment of Nkandla architect Penitle Makanya.
There was flaunting or dereliction of duties by the accounting officers of the relevant departments. In this, if the accounting officers took the initiative or took their responsibility as assigned by PFMA, they would have ensured that this waste of money does not happen.
Burkina Faso's military has dissolved parliament and announced a transitional government after violent protests against its president. 3 protesters were shot dead and scores wounded when security forces opened fire on the crowd. The protests were sparked by the government's attempt to push a constitutional change through parliament to allow the 63-year-old president to seek re-election next year. The World Bank has pledged $100 million to help recruit more foreign health workers in the fight against Ebola, taking its funding for the 3 worst-hit countries to more than $500 million over the past 3 months. Meanwhile, a nurses' union in the United States has called for a strike to press for better protection from Ebola. The union has accused hospitals of putting health workers at risk in dealing with the virus, which has killed almost 5,000 people in West Africa. Remember, you can find all of those stories on our Newsroom Facebook page. You can also follow us on Twitter at SABC Newsroom. Kathryn, over to you.
Oh, thank you, Annie. It's official. KwaZulu-Natal South Coast has its first official nudist beach. South Africans will have the luxury of enjoying a nudist beach, which will be fully operational by the end of the year, according to the Hibiscus Coast Municipality. On Tuesday, the full council meeting gave the green light to an application by the KwaZulu-Natal Naturist Association to declare a 500-metre portion of Mpinyati Beach near the Blue Flag Trafalgar Beach nudist-friendly. Other beaches in the past, like Sandy Bay and the Umhlanga Lagoon and even Mpinyati Beach, have illegally been practicing nudity where naked bathers ran the risk of being arrested and prosecuted. The decision was approved after months of research and consultation with residents and other stakeholders and comes despite opposition to the proposal. Now, to talk to us about this, the groundbreaking decision this week, we are joined by the spokesperson of the Hibiscus Municipality, Simon Seboyisa, in our Durban studio. Simon, welcome to Newsroom.
Good day, Kathryn. Good day to all viewers.
Simon, a groundbreaking decision this week. What has the reaction been like?
It has been really a very difficult time. There have been different reactions from different people. There were those who were shocked, who appeared to be very shocked about the decision, but then there were those who appreciated that, yes, the council stood the test of time by taking such a decision.
It surely wasn't an easy decision. You had religious and culture groups opposing it, and then you had the Nudist Naturist Association all for it, and economically we had to take this into consideration as well. Can you just take us back over the past few last months of just everything that had to be considered to reach this decision?
Okay, firstly, we received the application around May this year. And then after receiving the application, we looked at it, and it was really a unique one. What we did, firstly, we sat as a senior management and check on how are we going to deal with this application. But then we also consulted with the leadership of the municipality. Then it was agreed that what we are going to do is we are going to embark on a public consultation process whereby we are going to get the views of the people, and especially those who are located around the beach itself. But also we considered the rural areas which are closer to the beach, so that we can also get the views of the people who are living in the rural areas. But further to that, what we did is that we did a research on what has been happening on other beaches, especially international and even locally, like Sandy Bay Beach in the Western Cape, and also another unofficial one at Mhlanga, at what has been happening, especially on the issue of economic spin-offs, and also checking the issue of the comments that were raised by those who were opposing to the application, who felt that if we have such a nudist-friendly beach, then there will be rise in terms of crime levels, there will be an increase in terms of rape. So we did a research in all that regard. But we also checked the issue of legalities in terms of the application. And eventually, we came to a conclusion that in terms of the Constitution of South Africa, especially Chapter 2, Section 9.3, which provides that the state may not unfairly discriminate against anyone on one or more grounds. That is including social orientation, that we have to consider the application. But more than that, we realized that the comments, most of the comments that were coming from those who were objecting to this, were not based on objective facts, but rather on subjective opinions and assumptions. But further to that, our research showed that if we can have such a beach, then we will be able to compete. Maybe if I can also remind you, Catherine, together with the viewers, we are a tourist destination of choice, and we are competing like Durban with places like Durban North. So we have to see that we have a product that can compete in terms of tourist industry. Then we realize that, yes, if we have such a beach, we will be able to attract national and international tourists, which will then transpire to job creation and economic development.
Simon, I just want to know, can you explain to us exactly where exactly this beach will be? I understand it's only 500 meters or something like that.
From Trafalgar Beach, it's about 2 kilometers from Trafalgar Beach. That is north of the part of the Trafalgar Beach, and south of the south of the Trafalgar Beach and north of the Mpenjati Beach, just next to the lagoon, Mpenjati Lagoon. And that is a secluded area which cannot be easily accessed. As in the council resolution, we also considered that for the people who are practicing nudist or naturist to access this beach, will have to get permission for coastal access in terms of Integrated Coastal Management Act. So we are still going to consult with Department of Economic Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs and KZN Zemvelo to ensure that the access is the right one.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, who will have access exactly to this beach? Are we talking old and young?
In terms of the Code of Conduct of the South African National Naturist Association, there is no restriction. That is our understanding in terms of their submission. But it was also indicated that children should be in the company of the adult. So everyone will be allowed to go there, but it is a matter of choice. No one will be forced. It is currently a secluded area. No one is visiting the area. Even those who like walking on the beach, you will spend almost an hour and you won't see anyone walking in that area. So it is not an area that is commonly used.
Well, Simon, the December holidays are around the corner. What is your message to the holiday goers out there who are a bit scared of going to this beach? How would you encourage them to maybe consider something like this?
Catherine, I can indicate that, when these discussions started and the debate, especially on the media, came out, we received a lot of submissions from national and international naturalists who indicated that they will be visiting our area if we can approve this beach. We are saying people should be warned. If they want to go there, they must know that they can see people bathing naked. But also, we would like to invite naturalists to come and enjoy not only the beach itself, but also the climate of the South Coast. Because you don't have to wait for summer to visit our beaches. Even in winter, you can visit our beaches. It's a very friendly climate that we have in our area.
Well, Simon, thank you so much for joining us this morning and clarify the announcement this week of KwaZulu-Natal's South Coast now has its own official nudist beach. So if you don't have plans for the December holiday yet, maybe something to take into consideration. Well, moving on, the Cape Town Central City Improvement District this week released its second annual residential survey. The results are of interest to residents, landlords and business owners as they offer guidance in terms of the way the central city has grown from a residential perspective as well as in terms of the business opportunities. Understanding what lies closest to the hearts of your city's residents is an important factor to consider when we are talking about growth and development. Now, the survey was created and analysed by Andrew Fleming, a senior researcher at the Central City Improvement District. He joins us from Cape Town today. Andrew, welcome to Newsroom.
Good morning, Katrina. It's great to be back.
Andrew, I just want to know, what is the overall picture we're getting from this survey?
Yeah, overall, it's a really exciting picture. This is the second year in a row that we've run this survey. And we're seeing a continuing trend of young professionals, people from around, the bulk of the ages are between 25 to 35 and upwards into 40. People who are really interested in living in Cape Town's Central Business District, not just because it's close to where they work, but because of the overall downtown lifestyle. People are really liking the fact that they can walk to work and connect really well to other areas around the city center, like Cliff Street, Greenpoint, and places like that, without really having to worry about going too terribly far. They're liking the feel that they can go to restaurants in their own backyard, coffee shops on the way to work, and really take part in a burgeoning downtown kind of thriving lifestyle in the CBD.
Andrew, I just want to break down the survey. Exactly what types of questions are asked in a survey like this, and who are the people who participate in the survey?
Sure. We asked a lot of questions around why people really enjoyed living in the CBD, what challenges they face from living in the CBD, a lot on transportation and how people actually interact with the city in terms of where they're actually living and what they use the city for. I think sometimes a lot of people expect residents to only, walk to their house or to work from their house and that's it. But in reality, residents contribute so much to the life of the city, the economy of the city. So we really wanted to have questions that asked people how they interacted with the city in a way that actually makes sense to them as well. And of course, the other component of it is from the Central City Improvement District's perspective, the need to actually communicate with residents and the desire to take into account what residents want in a city in the services that are provided for them on the street and off the street as well.
Andrew, it's the second year running, and I understand you saw a significant increase in the respondents this year. Is that a good indication on a survey like this?
Absolutely, and this is still very much we call it a dipstick survey because it's not run to be a population count of everyone who lives in the CBD. We're really doing our best to reach a lot more people. So the fact that we had a 33% increase in the number of respondents taking this survey was a great sign for us that people are not only interested in telling us what they think, but actually still quite passionate about living in the CBD and what it means to be a Cape Townian resident in the downtown of Cape Town. So we're very excited to see this trend growing and keep it going in the future.
Now, what are some of the surprises that came through?
For me, I think one of the biggest surprises is that we had about 15% of our respondents were actually over the age of 55, which is a really interesting trend in terms of, again, who's living in the CBD. It was not expected, and it's great to see. And, looking at it further, I think, first off, a lot of people over the age of 55 are looking for a lock-up-and-go type of accommodation, somewhere where they can come to for several months of the year or most of the year, but travel very easily from and feel very safe leaving their home behind. But also it links to a growing part of our economy in the CBD linked to the medical industries. Not only do we have the new Christian Barnard Hospital opening down at the foreshore, but we've also got a growing number of doctors' offices, clinics and whatnot in the CBD that really offer quite a lot of services for people who may be looking for great access to premium health care.
You briefly mentioned the transportation as well. How many people are we seeing moving around in the city, and how are they? Which method of transport?
For sure. So it's we have a lot of people moving around, and a lot of people really enjoy the fact that they can walk to and from different destinations. We had an uptick from 30% last year to 37% this year who say that they regularly use the My City bus to get around the CBD. And I mean, that speaks volumes to the impact that the bus system is having here in Cape Town. But one of the things, and this is more of a challenge for residents in the CBD, and as a cyclist, I really encourage this, is that we still have about 64% of people using cars to go short distances. And this is less than 3 kilometers. And of course, these car trips have impacts not only on congestion, but also on carbon emissions and overall quality of life in the CBD. And in Cape Town, we have the great opportunity to actually walk in a very compact city area from one point to another. And I think, people don't really realize what you can see on your way from home to work, whether it's historical monuments or, the great informal trade markets or anything else like that really make the CBD quite a unique place to live, steeped in history and in a really thriving current African city environment. And it's one of these things that we really like to encourage people to get out of their cars and actually walk around the city and experience it firsthand while going in between, point A and point B.
Now, Andrew, just to wrap, can you tell us where can people get hold of the survey if they want to know more?
Absolutely. So the initial results are available on the Cape Town, the Central City Improvement District's website, which is the www.capetowncid.co.za. But we're also going to be debuting an infographic in the next several weeks, which will display all of the results in a really easy-to-access format that really shows, kind of each area of the survey, what all the numbers are meaning and what they mean together.
Well, Andrew, thank you so much for joining us this morning to talk about the Cape Town Central City Improvement District had its annual residential survey, the second one this year. We'll also be uploading those information to our Newsroom Facebook page. You can access it all there. Talking about social media, let's just take a look on what's been happening on social media. Please remember to send us your views on Twitter at SABC Newsroom. We love your opinions, your photos, your comments. We put them up, we read them, we put them on Facebook. There's a new beach in KZN opening soon, hashtag nude beach. If you have a body to show or your self-confidence to show, your body, hashtag crazy. Yes, everybody reacting to this nudist beach this morning. Hashtag Port Shepstone with a nude beach. Aware Siyabangena. Tourist attraction for sure. Surely Europe is the greatest target. True stuff. I'm residing to south coast of KZN this festive season. Wow, yeah, you see the holiday plans are all changing. Ash, would you be visiting Nude Beach down the south coast in KwaZulu-Natal? Heard it has been approved. Yes, that is the question on everybody's lips. Now, let's just take a look at the front pages from around the globe this morning. In France, papers are looking at the violent protests that broke out in Burkina Faso. There, 3 protesters were shot dead and scores wounded after the security forces opened fire on them. Then the Washington Post is reporting that according to the WHO, new Ebola cases are declining in West Africa. And the International New York Times is also looking at a protest, but at one that took place in Budapest, where demonstrators were riled by a planned tax on internet usage. Now, just before we take a break, National Guard troops have arrived in Hawaii in the town of Pahoa, whose residents they've been being threatened by a slow-moving river of lava. The lava flow has been slithering towards the Big Island village for weeks now, moving at speeds of 10 to 15 meters an hour as it bubbled over a cemetery and reached the community's outskirts as well. Good news, however, is that it slowed to a turtle's pace yesterday and has been easier to control since then. Well, time now to take a break. After that, we take a look at bullying in the workplace. Do you have a bully at work? How to deal with it? Up next. You're with Newsroom on SABC News.
Maar ik is een kast. Ja, ik heb de paar bezig. Kom.
Well, hello and welcome back. You're with Newsroom on SABC News. Most people don't expect to deal with bullying beyond high school, but if the statistics are anything to go by, you would find that more and more people are confronted with bullies well beyond their teenage years. In fact, more and more people are encountering bullies at work. Bullying can occur between a boss and a subordinate or between co-workers, but perhaps the most difficult situation to deal with is bullying by the boss, the very person responsible for your advancement within the company. Now today we are joined by Marlene Potgieter from a digital learning solutions company, The Training Room Online. She is an expert on dealing with the matter of bullying at the workplace. Marlene, welcome to Newsroom.
Morning.
Marlene, I just want to start off, bullying in the workplace. How common is it in South Africa?
It is much more common than people realize. I did a radio interview recently and I was completely astonished by the response from both friends who spoke to me afterwards and from people who contacted me to say they were being bullied. I was even blown away by the response.
What is the type of bullying we're talking about that you encounter in a workplace?
Generally speaking, it's from a hierarchical level, so it's somebody who is in a position of authority who's bullying people who are below them, so their reports or people who report into them, which can be both male and female, incidentally.
I just want to know, like, are we talking about mostly male, or I understand the figures are showing that it's mostly female bullies?
What's really interesting is that I suppose the more women work themselves up into the hierarchical positions in an organization, it would be reflective of the percentage of female versus male in the workplace. And statistically, it has been shown that there are more female bullies than male bullies, which is interesting because most people associate bullies with men.
How serious is bullying in the workplace, and how seriously should it be taken action against it?
It should be taken extremely seriously. It is serious. Firstly, it affects people's dignity and it affects their well-being. And the minute you affect somebody's well-being, it affects productivity. It also creates a huge staff turnover. I was absolutely amazed. In a recent organisation where we did an audit with staff, I did some focus group sessions with the staff, we found that 33 people had left the organisation directly attributable to the bully in this organisation. So it's something that should be taken really seriously. If you want your staff to be productive, you should remove all incidents of bullying.
As an employer, how should you be taking care of your staff?
It's how should you be taking care of them? You should be removing all incidents like this from an organisation. But physically, how one does that, it's important to do an audit of your environment regularly. Surveys don't work because surveys just tell you the percentage of people that feel unhappy. One needs to drill down a little bit deeper and find out why people are unhappy. And one does this either through questionnaires where you ask open-ended questions and do it anonymously so that people feel free to speak out about it. Because it is on a hierarchical level, it's very difficult for people to speak out. And the other way of doing it is to do focus groups with various people within the organisation. It's through focus groups like that I uncovered several incidents of bullying in the workplace in the last year that I've been doing this work.
Now, what if the bully is your boss? How do you handle that situation?
It's an extremely difficult thing to do. Most people are very frightened of speaking out because this is the person that affects your life and affects whether you stay in the organisation and whether you're promoted. Very often, though, bullies don't bully one person only. They sometimes do, but very seldom. There will be more than one person who has had the experience from that bully. And if you start speaking out on a level of your own level or people that are at a lower level than you, you'll probably find that there's more than one person who has experienced it. And there's always safety in numbers. So if you collectively go and complain to a person who's hopefully like more senior than the bully or to the HR department, I think it's very important to raise awareness that staff members can do this.
Bullying in the workplace leads to emotional bullying and the impact broadly. What does the impact have on the business itself when you have employers who are afraid of speaking out, who are being bullied, and just don't know how to go forward from there?
It's quite easy to even quantify what bullying can cost an organisation. In the first place, it brings down productivity. A lot of work is being done in the HR space on employee engagement. If you're being bullied, you won't be engaged 100% of the time that you are at the organisation, and your productivity can drop by up to 50, 40%, 60% or even more if the bullying is hectic. I've met people who cry in the parking garage trying to bolster themselves up to go into the workplace. Now, when that is your state of trauma, then you are not being productive. All you're thinking about is when the next incident of bullying is taking place. And then the other important cost is the cost of turnover. It can cost up to 8 months of that person's salary to replace them. And it doesn't take rocket science to work out how easy it is to get to that 8-month figure.
You're from the Training Room Online. Can you tell us a bit more about the Training Room Online, how it works and your type of work that you practice in?
One of the reasons that I approached the Training Room Online, I still have my own business, is because there's a lot of awareness that needs to be done from an employment equity perspective in an organisation. And there are 4 topics that an organisation needs to cover from an employment equity perspective. One of them is just general employment equity awareness. The other one is cultural sensitivity and diversity, which in our country is of critical importance. The other issue is one of harassment, and I broaden the scope to harassment and bullying because both can happen on cultural lines. And the risk for organisations, if a harasser or a person who's being bullied proves their case, is 24 months penalty if it's found to be on one of the listed grounds. And it has been shown statistically that bullying happens on cultural lines. And the last one is HIV/AIDS. So I teamed up with the Training Room Online to make it easier for organizations to raise awareness around these issues. And the beauty of these courses is that people can do it in their own time when they want to, and just do an assessment at the end of the training session and tick off that they have been trained. It raises awareness for the people that might be experiencing harassment in the workplace, but it also raises awareness and raises the whole EQ level of an organization.
Now, just to end off, if there's somebody out there watching you now and they're experiencing bullying at work, what would your advice be to them today?
I would, if they have a good HR department, I would immediately go to the HR department. I would speak to some of my colleagues, and I would ask if it has happened to other people. Generally speaking, people know, and they've seen other people being bullied, and they try and fly under the radar and try and not be bullied themselves. So there will be other people to speak to. And the other very important thing is to formulate it, write it down, use the existing grievance procedure. One of the interesting phenomenons about bullying is that bullies rely on the conspiracy of silence to exist. The minute that it's exposed, I've actually seen a bully's facade crumble right before my very eyes. The minute it's exposed and people talk about it, and the minute there's a spotlight on the person, the bullying stops. So it's when you keep quiet, it's this conspiracy of silence amongst the victims of bullying that props up the bullying within the workplace. So speak out. I can't put it more graphically than that.
Well, Marlene, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Marlene Potgieter, she's an expert on the matter of bullying in the workplace. She's from the Training Room Online. Let's take a look at what's been happening on our Newsroom Facebook page. Well, we're looking at comments. I see it's impossible not to cry each time I hear the name, the hashtag Senzo Moyiwa. The pain is just too much. I pray for healing and peace in his family. South Africa has lost 4 great athletes who dedicated their lives to sports. May their work not die in vain. There you have Pistorius added as well. United in song as a nation pays tribute to our fallen legends, Meyiwa, Mulaudzi and Melase. When the Lord calls you home, who are we to argue with that? Rest in peace, Meyiwa, Melase, Mulaudzi. Now let's just take a look at our Newsroom Facebook page this morning. A memorial service for slain Bafana captain Senzo Moyiwa will be held in the Durban City Hall today. The 27-year-old goalkeeper was shot and killed in Port Lotus on the East Rand on Sunday night. Hoskin, and then the next story, Hoskin Consolidated Investments chairman Marshall Golding has parted ways with the company after co-founding it 20 years ago. This follows a public spat between him and some board members, including Chief Executive Johnny Copeland. Earlier this week, Golding also resigned as Chief Executive of Savido Investments and ETV. The National Institute for Communicable Diseases says earlier media reports that a person had been admitted to tested for Ebola at Durban's Addington Hospital are inaccurate. Reports were doing the rounds that a man who had spent some time in Sierra Leone had sparked a flurry of activity at the hospital as it prepared to admit him and test him for Ebola. Now, all those stories and more are available on our Newsroom Facebook page. You can find them all there and comment and let us know what you think about them. Well, time now to take a break. This is Newsroom on SABC News.
Charge into a participating Dunlop zone for a power deal. Buy 4 15-inch or larger Dunlop or Sumitomo tires and get this free mobile power bank multi-charger. Charge it on the go or on your PC and stay powered up. Come in for a tire deal that will get you amped.
Dunlop zone.
Welcome back. You're watching SABC Newsroom on SABC News. Let's have a look at the stories making headlines today. A major decrease in the fuel price could be announced today. Economists say the price of petrol is set to fall by almost 50 cents a litre, while the drop in the diesel price could be even more. The decreases are as a result of a stronger rand and lower international oil prices. A police task team investigating Senzo Maliwa's killing is believed to be following strong leads ahead of his burial tomorrow. The Bafana Bafana and Orlando Pirates captain will be laid to rest at the Heroes Acre in Chesterville outside of Durban. Burkina Faso's military has dissolved parliament and announced a transitional government after violent protests against its president. 3 protesters were shot dead and scores wounded when security forces opened fire on the crowd. The protests were sparked by the government's attempt to push a constitutional change through parliament to allow the 63-year-old president to seek a re-election next year. Well, you can find all of those stories on our Newsroom Facebook page and on Twitter at SABC Newsroom. Christine, back to you.
Thank you, Anine. Veld and forest fires can cause destructive damage to vegetation, property and even the loss of lives. The Weather Department has been reporting conditions that are favourable for the spread of uncontrollable veld fires this past week. Now in studio once again we're joined by Paul Tsietsi Monari to talk to us about these conditions and how it affects the environment. Paul, welcome to Newsroom again.
Thank you so much.
Let's just start off the veld fires. Explain it to us. Is it usually caused by humans or is it natural?
Okay, yeah. There's 2 types of veld fires. You get the natural ones and you get the human-induced ones. And the natural ones are, basically coming out of nowhere. You can almost say something like that. But they usually sparked by lightning. For instance, that's one of the biggest fire starters just in the environment and needs some conditions, like the perfect kind of conditions, especially dry weather and in dry areas, like almost desert kind of areas where vegetation is quite dense and it's quite dry. And yeah, those are basically the differences. Natural, because of, natural causes like lightning and so forth, and the human-induced, where cigarette butts are just dropped all over the place, and also bottles that are thrown. The whole magnifying glass thing with the sun rays coming in and then starting a spark. Yeah, basically the same thing happens because of the shape of a bottle. It can also lead to some sparks being caused into like dry grass and so on.
I saw very destructive wildfires, I think it was earlier this year or late last year in Australia. Do we ever deal with fires of that magnitude in South Africa?
Well, we've had a couple of really devastating fires in the Western Cape province as well as over the interior of the country, but not as severe as what you see in Australia. I mean, Australia, as well as in California, they had some big fires as well. But we don't really have, such extent because sometimes we get rainfall. Most of our veld fires are actually caused because of rainy conditions or thunderstorm conditions that are coming up. So during the day, we predict a thunderstorm coming up, and during the day we get these windy conditions, and sometimes it's dry, and then the veld or fire start. But later into the evening we get rain, and that also sort of counteracts the whole phenomena, the whole situation. That's why we can actually get our fires to get stopped much easier. And also we do not have such a large spot of just dry land with these dry hard bushes. We don't really have many of those. We either have it really dry like in the Karoo and the Northern Cape zone, or we have lots of vegetation that is quite thick and it's quite wet as well.
Can veld fires be predicted and how?
Oh yes, that's also another thing. Like we've been doing, I don't know if you've been watching the weather, but everybody that's been watching the weather, you'll see that over the last couple of days we've been predicting conditions that are favorable to veld fires. They're not necessarily saying we know that there's going to be a veld fire, because it's not 100% a weather phenomenon, although it needs weather conditions to get it started. So we don't predict veld fires, but we predict the extent and we predict the conditions that are favorable to veld fires. So for instance, if you get the right kind of winds, dry winds and dry weather and thick vegetation, so those could lead to veld fires, and that's what we've been able to predict, and it's been quite accurate over the last couple of decades, and we've been getting it right. At least here in South Africa, it's manageable, and we have a lot of people that are also active when it comes to reporting fires and also curbing fires, because they cause a lot of damage. And you can imagine if a farmer in the Free State province is having a fire, they would like to get onto it as quickly as possible.
Now, certain seasons that we need to be focusing on, are there certain seasons, or is this something we need to be aware of the whole year?
Certainly. If you think about the summer season here in South Africa, over the Highveld, you know, over the Karoo, that's where we get thunderstorms, and that's where we get all these windy conditions as well. And those are times that you want to pay attention to possibilities of veld fires. And that's where we need to let people know that, you know what, around these times, watch it when you braai, you know, let it be controlled. Don't let children play around with matches, because it can catch on very fast, and fire moves quite quickly, especially when there's wind around. You know, a lot of oxygen just spreads it across, and it could be very, very dangerous.
That was actually my next question. How do you reduce the likelihood of veld fires?
Yes, that's where people need to come in now. You know, we can't do anything about the natural part, like your lightning and the dry vegetation. Especially if you look at last year, we had some good rains, you know, in the rainy season, and then the vegetation managed to grow. So now the vegetation is taken over and carrying over into this year, and that could lead to some severe fires. But that's things we cannot do anything about it. But you can also look after our vegetation, also be very careful how we work with fire, with matches and lighters and so on. Be very careful when it comes to, you know, just popping a cigarette butt out of your car while you're driving, because that's one of the biggest ways you can get a fire going, you know. So that's very, very important. If you're going on a road trip, you know, try not to throw stuff out of your window, like bottles and like cigarette butts, because those could lead to veld fires.
Often when you're driving, you often see veld fires or fires along the road. Usually those are controlled fires. But at what point do you alert authorities, and do you do something about it?
Oh, certainly, when the spray is at such an extent that, you know, we need a lot more manpower. So, for instance, let's say a farmer is busy managing a fire around his area, but if it comes to such an extent that it is burning a lot faster or a lot quicker than he can actually reach certain points, you know, that's a call for concern. And as soon as we can't really say a certain space or an area on the land, because, you know, fires go as fast as the dryness of the bush or as fast as the wind goes. So any fire is actually very, very crucial, very important, and needs to be reported. But manageable fires, like in wetter areas, those are not so necessary.
Well, Tete, thank you so much for joining us this morning and giving us an update on veld fires and what to look out for and how to prevent it and be aware of it. Let's take a look at what you've been saying on social media this morning. Please remember to send us your views on Twitter at SABC Newsroom. We love your pictures, your opinions. We put them up, we read them on the show. We also take a look at them later. Yes, today is Halloween. Are you celebrating Halloween today, Paul?
Not really. Halloween is not really my thing. It's an American thing.
Very true. Chief Q for Every Day's Halloween. Tomorrow's official theme song is #Halloween. Halloween always makes me think of Michael Jackson Thriller. Yes, if you're celebrating Halloween, what are you going to get up to? What are you going to be dressing up as? Send us your views. Let us know. Good morning, Halloween. #Trick or Treat. #the 31st of October 2014. There you have it. All of the Halloween celebration starting early this morning. Now, singer, songwriter, poet, and the rapper Quick Billion, who hails from Limpopo, learned and refined his musical talents on the streets of Alex. He joins us this morning in studio to talk about his latest single. We're also joined by Mercy Pakela. Welcome to Newsroom, guys.
Thank you, my dear.
Let's just start off before the performance. Just tell us about the latest single, what's it all about, and what can we be expecting the rest of the year?
It's called Ayashi Samateki. It's originally done by Sis Mercy. So, yeah, I did the song, so I took it to Get Rough, and they loved it. They called it, she came over, we did a remix.
Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us this morning, and that's when Newsroom will leave you guys this morning.
This is not my size. This is not my size. Outing in Cortez. I got them J's in them Cortez. A couple Timberlands and a Mac. It's just sneakers like not next. I'm feeling like it in my jacket. I'm feeling like it in my jacket. Don't my son says I'm funky. Little mama wanna funk me. I'm in my all-star. I'm an all-star. Buggy all-star. She going gaga. Chuck Taylor, Taylor, Tembala, Mahumusha, Brief, Angege, Wikipusha, Alexis, Stupid, Gulazong Tolakon, Soweto, Santen, Sonkas Cabayon, Majita go Danyani, Brief, Toxi, Majita go Para, Osta, Putra, Buana go Res, Osta Chick, Buana go Shaposi, Jack Taylor, whatever, it's a Gomora, Footy, Spete Manora, Bonke, Bafaki Jack Taylor, Sonke, Spoon Bama Bola, baby, if Jimmy choose, you see me, Kid Daddy the Jackie too, goes to God, see Jack Taylor on the feet, my old lady didn't know, see the conversing with the streets, outing in cut, yeah, I got them days in them cut, yeah, a couple Timberlands and a Mac. It's just because I'm not next. I'm feeling like it in my Jackie. I'm feeling like it in my Jackie. Domazana says I'm funky. Little mama wanna funk me. I'm in my all-star. I'm an all-star. Baggy all-star. She going gaga. Raise bum dude, she's got particularly. Skip my shot plan at the BOP. We bop with the cake, but we're rocking all the gases. Cape to Cairo, but we're rocking all the countries. We're taking it back, 96 up in the place. Move over, let me show you, boom, I can't just have a failure. Me no ana, my gang ain't never wanna all rocky Jack Taylors. Oh baby, now yeah, she's I like the way you move when you're rocking all star, man. Yeah, oh baby, you're a star. I think not a fire. We get to the crib, I make you walk around where we cooking some dinner. Yeah, well, don't think I'm a freak. Is this things you do when you walk in Chuck Taylor? Outing in cut, yeah. I got them days in them cut, yeah. A couple Timberlands and a Mac. It's just because I'm not next.
She's Samateki.
Sis Messi.
This is not my size. She's Samateki.
Hey.
This is not my size. She's Samateki. Oh, Lantana, this is not my size. She's Samateki. This is not my size.
I'm feeling like it in my Jackie. I'm feeling like it in my Jackie. Domazana says I'm funky. Little mama wanna funk me. I'm in my all-star. I'm an all-star. Baggy all-star. She going gaga.